Hello and welcome back to the left side of reality. This is your host as always, Snowder First. Last time we got our agents all trained up before the memory imprint day, and we managed to make some progress into training agents. This time, oh boy, this time. This is the memory imprint day, so there's nothing we can't do any core suppressions. But the thing is, I plan to reset this week after doing the core suppressions. So basically any training we do and any new employees would just get reset. So I'm gonna hold off on training new employees and just focus on getting armor and weapons from abnormality, since that does keep between resets. So let's get started. I have Amelia and London hanging around here in welfare. London very specifically because high black damage, 3 fortitude, 3 justice. That should be good. Oh, whoops, I forgot to switch it to the main screen. So I believe this is repression. And the good news is that because our butterfly friend here is heal level, it's not black damage, it's white. Crap. Isn't that the one weakness of Sten? That's unfortunate. Okay, looks like because it's heal level, it doesn't do that much. Okay, as long as Butterfly Man here doesn't break out, I am okay with that. Alright, we need 50 more boxes for the last one, so just have Gabriella work on that real quick. Anyway, since I'm not going to be focused on training, I'm just going to have London do this over and over. She'll probably only be able to do this for one day, at which point she'll probably be swapped out for someone else. Yeah, that has 3 fortitude and 3 justice, which is actually a lot of people, since because of HOD, everyone is starting out with 3 in every stat. So this is actually the ideal time to go grinding for Butterfly Man here. Now, I usually pre-prepare some kind of topic to talk about. 6, 12, 18. And I name episode titles after something noteworthy when it comes to whatever we're trying to accomplish in that particular episode. Today's episode, though, is a little unique. Alright, anything else that I can do? 2 more uses and I complete Old Faith and Promise, so that's good. Oof. I feel like I won't focus solely on Butterfly the whole time. I'm still going to I'm still going to grind on some of the more high-end abnormalities every so often, just because I need the PE boxes to finish the day. Okay, we have everything from Snow White. We have everything from Judgment Bird. The bracelet I'm not even gonna mess with. What did we need for Prince? 150 for the suits, so 130 as of right now. We already got all the spears. You're the only person that can handle it, Gabriella, so off you go. Okay, so what I was saying. Today is a little different because today is Transgender Visibility Day. And today's episode title is actually a bit of a play on that. Because a recurring motif in Project Moon games is the ego. Ego has a specific ego in the Project Moon universe has a specific acronym that I can never quite remember, and I don't remember the significance of the acronym. But basically, ego can mean quite a few things. At least as far as Project Moon goes. This stuff we are collecting here is extraction of geometric organ weapons and suits. And in Limbus Company, there's before I forget, I need to kill clerks. Limbus Company has something similar with its ecosystem, which, as far as I understand, is basically borrowing an abnormality's power for a brief period of time in order to use it in an attack. It is useful to think of it a little bit like ego weapons. Okay. And try to get your insight up to 5. But there is what's known as a true ego, which is basically a person tapping into your innermost self and drawing that out. Is the best way I understand true ego. Because when a person is driven to the very when a person is driven to the edge by circumstances and are basically up against the wall, one of two things can happen. They will either succumb to their inner despair and turn into a distortion. Distortion is a whole other topic that I'm not getting into this stream. Might do that for a separate one. But if you're strong enough to not succumb to your despair and turn into a distortion, you develop an ego instead. And ego is a very, very serious power boost. A character here in Lobotomy Corporation has an ego, but I won't say who as to not spoil. Virgilius in Limbus Company has true ego, as do various other people. Mind you, I believe just because you've developed ego does not mean you can't turn back and do distortion. Really, that's who I was thinking of when I said that achieving ego doesn't mean you aren't. Yeah, I suppose the passive does describe it as incomplete. There's that. Might send Gabriella from. Okay, here's the thing I absolutely have to know. Does working with another abnormality reset this counter to 0? Because that would seem what Guide 2 is basically implying here. No, I would immediately go for another round of Blue Star just for the high PE boxes. Meanwhile, London, you keep doing what you're doing. Another thing to consider about ego is that it isn't inherently good. People can use it for heroic reasons or for villainous reasons, and the power directly reflects the state of mind of the person. Let's talk about 2 Limbus Company bosses that develop ego to use for bad applications. And they are okay, I will circle back to my original point. I just want to ramble a bit. Oh yeah, I remember. They made all the frogs male, or maybe it was they made all the frogs. No. Yeah, the DNA for all the dinosaurs were based on frogs of one gender, so that they couldn't possibly reproduce. But the dinosaurs managed to basically switch their gender anyways and reproduce that way. It's actually the source of the very famous quote of life finds a way. Wow. You need level. Wait, why do I care about training stats? It's just gonna get reset. Well, no, I suppose high stats could still help for the core suppressions. Shouldn't dismiss it completely. But yes, I will circle back to my original point. I just wanted to talk about egos in Limbus. Or egos in Project Moon as a whole. So, the two characters that in Limbus that show that egos are not inherently good are the Canto 4 and Canto 5 final bosses. For Canto 4, it's Donrag, one of Ysing's old friends. And while he initially distorted, he was able to pull back from the brink and develop true ego, but the form of that true ego wasn't an inherently good thing. It was the ego of Farm Watch, and that actually has a lot of significance in Korean culture. I believe I explained this before, but a Farm Watch is basically a middleman on Korean farms that are above the people actually working in the fields, but below the people that actually own the farms. And one of my favorite things I saw in regards to this is that he'll be fine. A bathtub isn't going to do anything. Is that farm watches are basically a powerless middleman, and that was the only thing Donrad could imagine himself as, even at his peak. Like, how tragic is that? But yes, the symbolism behind Donrad being a farm watch is that it represents how he had been twisted by his desire to advance no matter what. Donrad had been determined to advance no matter what. That would be the Twilight Wing, right? Or is that, yeah, Twilight. 20. Not terrible. Go again, London. So yes. I feel like my favorite thing about Donrag is that his battlefield looks all pretty and gorgeous with the lighting, but if you look carefully in the background, you can see dead cow corpses just absolutely riddled with K-core injections. Ugh, punishing bird. Another day of dealing with this thing. We need to be ready for Red Dawn, in case they end up somewhere annoying. Then we have the second example of a ego being in the hands of a thoroughly bad person. The final villain of where did Punishing Bird go? What? Oh, well, as long as it's pecking people, I'm okay with that. 61 right now. That's one suit. Alright, and Gabriella needs to get the spores off. But yes, the other person to develop true ego so far in Limbus Company is Ahab, the final boss of Canto 5. Now, the thing about Ahab is that her obsession is so overwhelming, it manages to be a very good and very bad thing at the same time. Very good because Ahab's determination was such that it managed to override the palification of the whale and pass on the immunity to her crew just through sheer stubbornness. The bad side of that is that it means that you can no longer reason with Ahab's crew if you happen to run into a disagreement with them. So, appropriately for that kind of person, the ego that developed as a result from this is called Gas Harpoon, which would appear to be a play on the concept of gaslighting. And it takes Ahab's gaslighting to the logical extreme, and that she literally takes people's egos and uses it as fuel rods for her weapons. Okay, just a little more and I can grab the... A part of me thinks it would be kind of fun if it was a bit of a pun, because the big thing about Ahab that's even noted about in universe is that she is a very effective gaslighter. The other bit of symbolism with this ego is that while Ahab is tricky to deal with, as long as she has someone to use as fuel, the second she runs out of her crew to use as fuel, she is much more manageable. It basically makes the final leg of the fight a victory match, because she isn't getting buffs anymore from her various from the people she was using. If there's a reason I've stuck around with Limbus Company for this long, heck, with this game for this long, it's because of how very good the storytelling is. Like, it is very smart storytelling that has layers upon layers, and it's kind of like... It's something you could discuss for hours. Which doesn't make it less frustrating when a Limbus update is riddled with bugs that you feel like really shouldn't be there. Or there's a boss encounter that's well designed in kicking your teeth in over and over. But so it goes. So, after what a rambling path I took saying all that, you might be wondering at this point, what the heck was even my original point? White and purity. Endure to red. Gun! 100. Pretty okay as far as suits go. 90. Oh god. That reminds me that, it reminds me that... God, where's my head today? Oh, Galena lost the dog ears. Nice. I was hoping that would happen. I didn't like her having the dog ears because they lowered success rate. But yeah, the thing about seeing the guns from Solemn Lament reminds me of how Solemn Lament You Sang is one of my favorite IDs that they've taken out recently. There's just something so satisfying about being able to unleash a barrage of butterfly bullets onto your opponents. Okay, back to what I was saying. That after what a rambling path I've been taking on, talking so far, what was my original point? Well, a running theme in Project Moon games, and especially this is how True Ego ties into it, is how tapping into the inner strength of people can bring out the best in them, it can bring out the worst in them, but you basically always gotta keep fighting. You have to push and push and push for what you want. And if you push hard enough, you might be able to reach the apex you're looking for. And that's a journey that would probably sound very familiar for trans people. In fairness, being part of the LGBT community in general isn't very easy. Everyone has their own struggles to deal with, but trans people are in a particularly unique position. We're in a particularly unique position in that our dilemma is just so hard to communicate to people, especially when there's intentionally bad faith arguments being thrown around. One of the strangest feelings that you can end up with is the ever so slightly nagging feeling that something is off. That something just isn't right. I think the reason that I had such a difficult time in school is because as soon as I was old enough to be aware of myself, I became aware of this idea that I was just a little different from everyone around me. Now, this is a saga that actually has multiple parts to it, and the first part of it is the feeling I had that I just didn't quite click with my classmates the same way as everyone else. I didn't have good social skills. I always trip into social faux pas that I didn't intend. And it's just kind of a mess in general. This is an awkward suit for attachment grinding. I hate it. Who has light weapons in this area? Only you do. Might be best to send you first then. But yes, the explanation for that part of my life was originally revealed to be autism. Very specifically Asperger's syndrome, which is a now defunct term that's been folded into high-functioning autism. But high-functioning doesn't mean completely... high functioning doesn't mean everything's completely okay. Because, like I said, I know that I don't intend harm, and I know that I want to get along with people, but my ability to deal with social situations has never improved all that much. Interestingly, I believe my variation of autism has a physical component, where for reasons I don't understand, my hands always had a bit of a tremble to them. It was bad enough that it impeded my ability to learn to write. Now go back and recover your SP. Some physical therapy was enough to eventually get my hands to be better under control, but I feel like they will always be just a tad more clumsy than other people's hands. Feels like it's the reason I don't do well with video games that involve fast reaction times, like action games or rhythm games, because my hands always react just that frame slower. I wonder if it was the reason why I had such a time with Guacamole. Another undeniable sign that I have autism: the frequency with which my brain just completely loses track of what it's even talking about. But yes. Crap, let me find my... Speaking of train of thought, let me find mine again. Wait, you have a white weapon. You're needed for the clowns. Almost forgot. You then. Crap, now I really don't remember what my train of thought was. Could someone repeat it back to me? Okay, where did these damn clowns go? Butterfly. Emilia can take care of that in a heartbeat. Sihan could do this. Take Rose, just in case. Galena and Pansy can do this. You can do this. Yeah, fourth match flame with you. Do I have anyone here? I do not. Tatiana and Pussy can be here. Is that all the clowns? Have I got them all? No information. I think I already had... I think I grabbed that first. Did I grab control first? Everyone come on this one. Life for Daredevil and... let's say Heaven. Both Heaven wielders, actually. No one's on control. You do then. But yes, as I grew up, just knowing about autism helped, because it means I could be more mindful of what I was saying and how to say it. It doesn't always work, but it helps a lot. Oh god, did the clown teleport? Oh god, do not let the magical girl escape. Did clowns teleport? It looks like it might only be this one. Get this clown before it screws too much with magical girl. I think we lost 2 Clypot from that. I was gonna check to see clerk corpses, but they're not worth the risk. Okay, to repeat the thought I was just having so I don't lose it, the reason you want diagnoses for these kind of things is that just knowing about it helps a lot. Knowing about autism helps to deal with autism because you can basically look at it and go, okay, so my mind works a smidge differently. I just need to do my best to navigate social situations even with them. And again, it doesn't always work, but I feel like I am much better at socializing than I was as a kid because I've been given the actual tools to deal with it. So, which runs into the second story of my childhood, and the one that's directly applicable to today. Water for throat. Growing up, I found that my tastes didn't align very frequently with what is considered to be rightful for men to be interested in. Now, the immediate thing you could say to that is, well, those kind of descriptions are arbitrary. You shouldn't let yourself stop being interested in something just because it's labeled for men or for women. That is a very valid point. But for me specifically, when I was little, I found that I wasn't that my interests weren't geared for what was traditionally expected of men. I grew up a very voracious reader, reading every possible book I could get my hands on, and shooting up in reading levels as a kid. But as my family collected books for me and my siblings to read, I began to feel a pull towards books that were grabbed from my sisters. Don't know if any of these names will be recognized, but stuff like not My Little Pony, but a book about girls keeping ponies, another one called The Babysitter Club. And as I grew a bit older and started watching TV, that extended to shows like that too. Kim Possible, Winx, Witch, Sailor Moon, Cardcaptor Sakura. And over again, I would get told the same refrain. You shouldn't watch these things. You shouldn't read these things. They're for girls. And all I could think of was, I want to do it anyways. I think the standout story when it comes to this is another standout story when it comes to this is that I like to eat a lot. In fact, sometimes I like to eat too much, and I've been trying to balance my food recently to be more to basically keep my weight down just for health reasons. But as a kid, I liked to eat a lot, and one of the things I wanted to get was what's called an Easy Bake Oven. They don't sell them anymore, and I don't think they sell stuff like that anymore. But it was basically a super tiny oven that you could stick like small amounts of prepackaged dough in order to make cookies and sweets and that kind of things. So, I asked my parents for one, and once again, that familiar refrain. You shouldn't want that. It's not for men. And yes, indeed, the primary demographic of the Easy Bake Oven is for girls. Now, it's very possible to like all these things I just listed and still be a man. Like I was saying earlier, these kind of things are completely arbitrary. But what really pushed it, and something I only realized reflecting upon it in recent years, is when I was in high school. And this is actually something I will hold back on the events of, hold back on the specific details. But when I was in high school, they held an event that no one but me volunteered for. And volunteering for this event and doing it and my strong interest in it, looking at that specifically, thinking about it, and thinking about everything I had lived before now, one day it all kind of swirled together in my head. It added up into a clear pattern, and it's like, oh, that's what it all means. Contrary to what people would have you believe, being trans is not some kind of fad or a trend that you can just decide to do and decide to stop doing on a whim. It is a state of being. It is a state of being you are always in. It is a state of being you have always been in, and you always will be, even if you didn't know it at the time. And that's how it was for me. It almost feels like awakening an ego. The moment where it's like, all of these were not separate little incidents that had no meaning. They were all telling me who I am. And when I finally got the ability to listen, it's like, there's just so much clarity. Which isn't to say that all my problems are solved, especially in the current climate, which is hostile to say the least. But this is one of those things where now that I know that I am trans, and now that I am exploring the idea more to myself, if nothing else, it is not something I would reverse for anything. Because I would rather know these things and finally have that clarity on who I've been than to go back to being confused and just feeling like I didn't know anything else. I have completely lost track of whatever it was I was even doing with this. Well, I was grinding butterfly for 30 million years. I know that for a fact. Exactly. That's exactly why I started out with the ego metaphor. I think that's all a very good reason why my relationship with men have always been very complicated. Oof. That's a topic for another day, if I even want to get into that. We're barely 30. We're gonna be needed to left for another day, probably. How close are we on Prince? 78. So getting closer, but again, I'm not sure if I could do it in one day. You know what? I think I'm just gonna focus a bit on stat grinding in the middle of all of this. Take the time to hash it out. Okay, this next part could be tricky because 7 is a lot and it could go to problematic abnormalities. The kind of bad thing about this being a key level abnormality is that the box level is low. But then again, if this was a fog... Oh, the bad thing about disabling those meltdowns. Grind for insight. Get level 5 in tiny little doses. Huh, we aren't getting a noon. Interesting. Okay, the timers weren't... Of course it had to be these two. Of course. Why would they go anywhere else? At least Emilio's close. The Sihan can do this. He's also in Central Command. Match Girl can be Galena. Has vuelto Galena. I have to do Burrowing Heaven last. I'll have Rose take care of Queenie here. Yeah, your suit is high black resistance. Oh, good thing I did that because Snow White's also melting down. That's 100% Gabriella. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the Heart of Aspiration is 7. There's no one else. Lamarcus can just grab it. And then Pansy can be Burrowing Heaven. Well, the good news is because of all the VOV abnormalities that got hit, our PE boxes are going to shoot up like crazy. I have seen challenge runners like that, and my number one question is, why? Why would you do that to yourself? You do that kind of thing occasionally. Like, the one I vividly remember is you not using S-Crafts, I think it was, for the final boss of Trails 1. Since today's the day for personal confessions anyways, did you want to hear one about Trails? There's a part of me that's personally glad that the Trails 2 LP went on hiatus, because the difficulty of the game was just going completely vertical, and it just led to a lot of unfun all around. Did punishing? Yeah, it just went straight for control. So here's the question. Now that we've reached this point, should we just pull the plug? Especially since we're not training stats too much anyways? Or should we keep going just a smidge longer for grinding? We do have enough to at least grab the weapon today. We could do that and end. Aim for the suit the next day. And then... yeah, I'm gonna save these two for the next day. We're almost there on them. Okay. Temperament's 5, neat. Prudence 5, neat. Prudence 5, neat. Georgia having a good day, except for Justice. I don't remember doing anything with Georgia. Oh, Temperament's 5, that tracks. 4, 4, 2, nice. Oh, geez, London maxed out her Justice. Okay, when we do the run-up this week that we're actually gonna keep, we're definitely gonna use Butterfly to buff all the level 3 people, because this was one day. Butterfly being a he means he's very grindable, as long as you're not above 3. That is so good. That's gonna be Clouded Monk, isn't it? No, that's Parasite Tree. Cool, I hate that. I super hate that. That's Queen Bee. Oh wow, it's a good thing this is a run we're not keeping. I hate this so much. Mm. I'd, I'd like to if we discard this week though, while we keep the ego, um, um we wouldn't keep the fortitude training. That's kind of the dilemma here. Hmm. I love how 2 out of 3 of these won't help me fill the codex. I love that for me. Hmm. Well, I've been thinking of skipping on donor abnos when possible, and the middle one is super not an option. So I guess it really only leaves us with one choice. While humanity prospered with its advanced civilization and technology, it was not aware of its impending suicide as a species. They needed a hero, but ended up beheading said hero with their own hands. A lot of things happened, and a lot of things changed. A changed himself from a healer to a creator. The old promises he had made with her sustained him evanescently, but in a world without her, they ultimately became obsolete. Various sins sprung up from his arrogance, one by one, and A changed very slowly. He became enchanted by the shadows he had created. The plan to discover the disease of mankind became a relic of the past. He became skeptical of man, including himself. A started to look for something that would guide him without turning against him. The conclusion was very simple. While vile humans could not be trusted, the answer lay in machines. Machines which A loathed deeply became essential to him. Perhaps A wanted to have wings that would allow him to escape from the hellish inferno he had trapped himself in, to reach the heavens. Angelos. That's how I was born. Oh boy, I need to warm up my Chesed voice. So, what, so, what's on your mind? The air feels sweeter than usual, doesn't it? Now, if you don't mind, can I have a moment to drink some coffee, manager? It's quite something that this has such a stellar soundtrack when so much of it is pulled from the RPG Maker. Ah, ah, that's much better. I just can't start my day with that fresh cup of coffee in the morning. On that we can agree on. I hope you're not offended by the way I talk to you. Are you? My name's Chised. I'm the head of the welfare department. The welfare team is quite remarkable. I'm proud to state that my team has the highest level of satisfaction in the entire corporation. Lady Angela's told me to cooperate with you for now. Well, I am the kind of person who can flow with anyone, but playing silly games with the manager is too much pressure, even for me. But orders are orders, so I've got no choice, do I? Well, I'll be off now. My cup's getting cold. Mr. Chised, sir, I have something important to tell you. Please, go on. Well, I didn't polish the ego thoroughly enough, so some of them appear to be malfunctioning right now. I think we'll have to run some extra diagnostics. I'm sorry, Chised, sir. Nah, that's quite alright. Must have been pretty tiring to do ego maintenance on top of all the work you already have, no? Mr. Chised, sir. I'll go check it myself. You've done well enough to find out about the problem now. There's so many things to mind here. It'd take quite a bit out of someone to constantly pay attention to every little detail like that. Oh my! Thank you so much, sir. Of course. Let's make the best of the day as always. The way I handled that was quite different from what you've seen out of the others, wasn't it? Yup, Lady Angela wouldn't have gone easy on that at all like I did. These employees will be goners soon enough. So what's the point in investing so much effort, scolding and lambasting them over tiny little mishaps? Well, shucks, my coffee's gone cold. Too bad. Too bad. Lukewarm coffee just isn't worth it. Best to pour it down the drain with no hesitation. How long is the time limit? Do we have anything we can do here as far as armor goes? We could put someone in green stem if we were so inclined. Oh look, Amelia's got the visor. Too bad she can't keep it. Because the week's going out the window. Spore. Oh, I didn't actually grab the butterfly gun yet. Okay. London needs to leave because she can no longer work on Butterfly. You can't do it. One of these guys. Then I'll swap out. No, not Rin. Not Alyssa. You could do it. And you could do it. And I'm guessing that's why she's such a good fortitude trainer. I want to see this time limit, so I'm going to begin management. 12.5 minutes. Oh god. That's actually very terrible for me. Okay, it's not 12.5 real minutes, I can pause. But I never clear these in that short amount of time. Oh, babe. This is gonna be something. I did have a particular strategy in mind for how I could possibly deal with this. It was just be a matter of how we're going to get it to work. They set it up like this on purpose too, because by the time you get to Chesed, your PE box is 600 at the least, or maybe 700 since you're forced to go through Central Command, and then almost 900 if you do Chesed last. Oy. Or in my case, both, because it just kind of happened like that. The funny thing is, Queen Bee was almost in this slot. Remember? Queen Bee was almost in this slot, got rejected, and then got in the facility anyways. Isn't that just how it goes? Well, next week on the left side of reality, I'm going to figure out what to do about this. And do we also want to do a core suppression at the same time? That would be the other thing to consider. Well, I'll figure it out by next week. See you all then.